My husband spent 20 years restoring that car. When I found the garage empty, my son said, "I sold it." My wife wanted a trip to Paris, deal with it. I was heartbroken, until the dealer called. "Ma'am, your husband left something inside. You need to come immediately." I just stepped into the quiet of my garage, a mundane morning ritual, when the sight sucker punched me. A gaping empty space where my late husband's cherished car should have been. My blood ran cold. That void wasn't just missing steel and chrome. It screamed a betrayal so deep, it shook me to my core. My name is Carol, and what happened next taught me that even after death, the people we love can still save us and deliver a powerful lesson to those who truly deserve it. You see, for 43 years Dennis never, not once, left that garage door open overnight. But there it was, rolled up, revealing nothing but shadows. 8 months he'd been gone, and I was still getting used to the silence of the house, the quiet of my own thoughts. I stood there, coffee growing cold in my hands, just staring out the kitchen window above the sink. The emptiness felt wrong, like a missing limb. I finally walked out, the cool concrete of the driveway a stark reminder of what used to be. Dennis would have been out here already on a beautiful spring morning like this, rag in hand, meticulously polishing his Shelby. That oil stain in the middle of the floor, dark and familiar from 20 years of the same car, now just marked an absence. An agonizing, aching absence. I peered into the garage. His workbench, his tools lined up perfectly, each outlined in black marker. His red toolbox, his work journal open to a page. The car, his beautiful custom-restored Shelby GT500, simply gone. My chest tightened, a familiar squeeze I'd felt too often these past months. I took a slow, deliberate breath. In through the nose, out through the mouth. A nurse for 43 years, and those simple techniques still served me. But my mind was a blank. I picked up the journal. The last entry was dated just 3 weeks before he passed. His handwriting was a little looser, a little tired. Almost done. 20 years on this beauty. Can't wait to teach Carol to drive her properly. Our retirement road trip starts next summer. I closed it, my fingers tracing his faded words. The garage still smelled of him. Motor oil, old leather, that orange hand soap he always used. I could almost hear the classic rock he'd play on his old radio, singing along when he thought I wasn't listening. Then, the familiar rumble of Brian's black BMW pulling into the driveway. My son, 38 years old, and still he couldn't look me in the eye when he knew he'd done something wrong. I saw the slump in his shoulders, the way his hands dove into his pockets even from across the yard. Then Vanessa stepped out. Perfect as always. Designer sunglasses, clothes that probably cost more than my monthly grocery bill. She stood by the car watching me even through those dark lenses. Brian stopped at the edge of the driveway. "Mom." I waited. He shifted. "I need to talk to you about something." "Where's the car, Brian?" My voice was calm, but inside a storm was brewing. His jaw tightened. "That's what I need to talk about." "I sold it." The words hung in the air, foreign and incomprehensible. "You... what?" "I sold it. Yesterday." He wouldn't meet my gaze. "I needed the money. Vanessa's been planning this Paris trip for months. It's important for her business connections. I couldn't let her down." The tightness in my chest became a vice. My hands trembled, so I crossed my arms. "That was your father's car. It was just sitting there." His voice rose, defensive. "Dad's gone, Mom. You don't even drive it." It was his. Past tense. He finally looked at me, his eyes tired and red-rimmed. "I got a good price for it, too. $15,000. $15,000. For a car Dennis had poured his heart and soul into for 2 decades. A car he'd meticulously restored, piece by piece, promising it would stay in the family. I wanted to scream, to grab him and shake him until he understood the magnitude of what he'd done. But decades in the ICU taught me to keep my voice steady, even when my world was shattering. "When did you take it?" "Yesterday afternoon. You were at the store." He still had his old key, from before he'd moved out, before he'd met her. And Dennis, bless his trusting soul, always left the garage unlocked. "You should have asked me. Would you have said yes?" "No," I said flatly. "I wouldn't have." Vanessa glided up then, her presence radiating ownership. She put a perfectly manicured hand on Brian's arm. Her nails were red and flawless. Carol, we're not discussing this. It's done. The car is sold. We leave for Paris tomorrow. I looked at her, really looked. 2 years married to my son, and I knew nothing real about her. She smiled a lot, but it never reached her eyes. This is between me and my son. I'm his wife. What's between you and him is between all of us. Her voice was sickeningly pleasant, as if explaining something simple to a child. Brian needed that money. The car was sitting unused. It made sense to sell it. It was his father's. His father is dead, she stated matter-of-factly. And Brian is trying to build a life. We both are. Surely you understand that. I didn't trust myself to speak. Brian wouldn't meet my eyes. Vanessa's hand remained possessively on his arm. We'll send you photos from Paris, she chirped, a tight smile on her lips. You'd love it there. The architecture, the museums. Very romantic. The casual cruelty of it, like she didn't even know, or worse, didn't care. Brian shifted. We should go. Still need to pack. Yes, Vanessa said, tugging his arm gently. Early flight. As they walked back to the BMW, Brian glanced back just once. He saw me standing in Dennis's empty garage, arms crossed in my slippers. Then he got in. Vanessa's window rolled down. Take care of yourself, Carol. We'll see you when we get back. I watched them drive away, until the black BMW turned the corner and vanished. Then I was alone. I went back into the garage, stood where the oil stain was. The silence was different now, emptier. The morning sun streamed in, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. I picked up Dennis's journal again, reading his words about teaching me to drive, about our retirement road trip, about 20 years of work finally finished. His coffee mug, stained from years of use, was still on the shelf. Everything was here, everything of him except the car. That beautiful, empty space where the Shelby should have been. I closed the journal, holding it tight against my chest. 8 months a widow, and I thought I'd cried all the tears there were. But standing in that garage, holding his journal, looking at the void our son had created, they came again. Deep, wrenching sobs. The phone rang at 7 a.m. the next morning. I'd been awake for hours, sitting at the kitchen table, reading Dennis's precise notes on replacing a carburetor. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello, Mrs. Bennett? A man's voice, rough around the edges like he'd been crying. This is Tom Graves from Graves Classic Auto. I have your husband's car. I sat up straight. What? The Shelby. Your son brought it in Wednesday. I need you to come to the dealership. Please, right now if you can. There's something Dennis wanted you to know. Something he hid before he died. My mind raced, trying to make sense of his words. I don't understand. Dennis was my friend. A good friend. His voice cracked. I was at his funeral, but I couldn't. I should have spoken to you then. I'm sorry. Please, Mrs. Bennett, can you come? I remembered him then vaguely. A gray-haired man in a dark suit standing in the back. He'd left before I could greet anyone. I wrote down the address. An industrial area on the east side of town. I'll be there in 30 minutes. I drove, my hands tight on the steering wheel. Tom was waiting outside Graves Classic Auto, his eyes red. Mrs. Bennett, thank you for coming. You're Tom? I asked, shaking his firm, trembling hand. Yes. Your husband saved my life 25 years ago. He looked at the ground, took a deep breath. I needed a business loan. Had a dream of opening this place. No bank would touch me. Bad credit, no collateral, just a dream. Dennis co-signed for me. Risked his own credit, his savings for a stranger. Tom wiped his eyes. I paid back every penny, but the debt went deeper than money. This dealership exists because of him. He never told me, I whispered. He wouldn't have. That's who Dennis was. Tom's voice went rough. When your son brought that Shelby in Wednesday, I knew it the second I saw it. Dennis talked about that car every time we ran into each other. He was so proud of it. Brian said he sold it. He did. To me. Tom looked sick. Your son had no idea what he was selling. I asked him if he knew the value. He said $15,000 sounded fair. My stomach dropped. What's it really worth? Tom met my eyes. Around $180,000. It's a documented 1967 Shelby GT 500, One of 50 ever made. Dennis restored it to museum quality. The number echoed in my head, surreal, impossible. $180,000? Brian sold it for 15. Yes, ma'am. I sat down on the curb, the world tilting. Tom sat beside me. Neither of us spoke. I bought it from him, Tom said finally. Paid him the 15 because he was desperate. Said something about a Paris trip. But Mrs. Bennett, that car was never mine to keep. Why are you telling me this? Because Dennis made me promise. 2 years ago. Tom stood, held out a hand to help me up. Come inside. There's something you need to see. He led me to the garage, a massive space with white floors and bright lights. 3 cars sat under covers. He stopped at the last one, pulled the cover back. The Shelby sat there, gleaming. Burgundy paint, perfect chrome. I walked slowly towards it, put my hand on the hood. Cool, smooth metal. I could feel Dennis in every line. I opened the driver's door, sat in the leather seat. It smelled like home. The steering wheel was worn where his hands had gripped it. Tom leaned against the doorframe. 2 years ago, Dennis asked me to help him install something. A hidden compartment. I looked up confused. Why? He said if anything ever happened to him, I needed to make sure you knew about it. Made me swear. Tom gestured to the dashboard behind the radio. I didn't look inside. He said, "This is for Carol and only Carol." My heart pounded. Tom showed me how to release the panel. Press here, pull there. The radio face came away, revealing a dark, hidden space. Tom stepped back, leaving me alone. I reached in. My hand touched paper. I pulled out a thick manila folder. Underneath, a sealed envelope with my name in Dennis's handwriting. And at the bottom, a small wooden box with a key inside. I opened the envelope first. Dennis's familiar script filled the page. Carol, I needed to protect you from this until I had proof. I've been investigating Vanessa for 18 months. She's not who she says she is. Her real name is Vanessa Cortland. She's done this before, twice that I found so far. In this folder is everything I've gathered. Photos, documents, contact information for her previous victims. Their stories are the same. She targets men with aging parents and family assets. She's going to target our house, Carol. That's her pattern. She'll convince Brian that you're declining, that you need care, that the house should be sold. Then she'll disappear with the money. I confronted her once, carefully watching her reaction. She's very good at what she does. Brian doesn't see it. He won't believe me without ironclad proof, and I don't have it yet. The key in this box is for our safe deposit box at First National. Box 447. Inside are stock certificates I bought in 1994, as a favor to a patient. Check the current value. You're taken care of financially. Tom knows to call you if anything happens to this car. He's a good man. Trust him. Protect yourself. Protect our son. He's a victim in this too. I love you. I'm still protecting you, Dennis. I read it twice, my hands trembling. Dennis knew. He knew about Vanessa. He'd spent 18 months investigating her, dying before he could finish. I opened the manila folder. Photos. Vanessa at a wedding with an older man. Another photo, different wedding, different man. Marriage certificates. Vanessa Cortland married Stanley Wright, Phoenix, June 2019. Vanessa Cortland married George Murphy, Tampa, March 2021. Newspaper clippings. Local man reports elderly mother's life savings stolen by daughter-in-law. Family business sold in suspected fraud case. Pages of Dennis's careful notes about Vanessa's behavior. Questions she'd asked about our house, my health, our assets. Dates and times. At the back, contact information for Stanley Wright and George Murphy. Dennis's final note. Need more concrete proof before telling Brian. He won't believe me without it. She's too skilled. If you're reading this and I'm gone, please finish what I started. Protect our son. I closed the folder, held it against my chest. 8 months I'd thought I knew everything about our life together. 8 months I'd grieved him. He'd carried this burden alone. Tears came then, not quiet ones but deep wrenching sobs that shook my entire body. I sat in Dennis's car, holding his investigation file, and wept for everything he'd tried to do. Tom came back, stood in the doorway, didn't say anything, just waited. I wiped my face, got out of the car. He was protecting me, even after he died. Tom nodded. That's who Dennis was. I need to call these men. Stanley and George. I need to know what happened to them. You can use my office. Take all the time you need. I looked at the Shelby, the car Dennis spent 20 years building. The secret compartment he'd installed with Tom. The investigation he'd left for me to finish. She's not going to get away with this. No, Tom said. She's not. Stanley Wright answered on the third ring. His voice sounded tired, like he'd been expecting my call for years. I was in Tom's office, the door closed, phone on speaker. Hello, Mr. Wright. My name is Carol Bennett. I'm calling because my son is married to a woman named Vanessa Cortland. A long silence. Then a heavy sigh. I wondered when this call would come. Stanley, 58, told his story slowly, each word carefully chosen. He met Vanessa at a community center after his wife died. She was charming, attentive, made him feel seen. 6 months later they married. His mother had concerns, but Stanley dismissed them. After the wedding, Vanessa started with subtle comments. Your mother seems to be slowing down. She forgot my name yesterday. Is that normal? She'd leave articles about dementia, about elderly falls, where Stanley would find them. Over months she built a case that his mother wasn't safe. Then she found a memory care facility, the best $20,000 a month. The only way to afford it was to sell his mother's house, the home she'd lived in for 42 years. $280,000. It went into a joint account with Vanessa. 2 weeks after his mother moved into the facility, Vanessa disappeared. Cleaned out the account. Every penny. Stanley filed police reports, but it was a joint account, technically legal. His mother died 6 months later. She kept asking when she could go home. Stanley's voice cracked. But there was no home anymore, and no money to get her one. My mom was fine, Mrs. Bennett. A little forgetful, but fine. She didn't need that place. She needed her home. He paused. Whatever Vanessa is telling your son about you, don't believe it. Document everything. She'll start small, little comments about you forgetting things, being tired. Then she'll escalate. Stop her, he pleaded. Please, don't let her do to another family what she did to mine. I hung up, heart heavy. Tom brought me water. I dialed the second number. George Murphy, 61, answered immediately. Vanessa Cortland? Yeah, I've been waiting for someone to call. His story was different, but the pattern chillingly was the same. He met Vanessa at his father's funeral. She seemed to understand his grief, said she'd lost someone too. They started dating a month later, married 8 months later. George inherited his father's auto repair shop. Vanessa suggested selling it. It's too much stress. Sell it. We'll take the money, travel, heal together, start fresh. He sold the shop for $195,000. It went into a joint account. 3 days after the check cleared, Vanessa was gone. Vanished. George tracked her to Costa Rica. But by the time he got there, the money was gone, laundered through multiple accounts. She targets men with aging parents and family assets, George said. That's her specialty. She researches them first, knows everything before she even introduces herself. Does your son have access to your house? Your finances? Not yet. But she's been setting the stage. Then you have time. Stop her before she gets him to sign anything. After I hung up, Tom and I sat in silence. Dennis suspected all of this, Tom said finally. He came to me 6 months before he died. Asked me to help him. Said he had a buddy, a private investigator, Peter Coleman. They were working together. Why didn't Dennis tell me? He said he needed ironclad proof. Said Brian was so in love, he'd never believe it otherwise. Tom pulled a business card from his desk. Peter's been waiting. Call him. First I went to the bank. First National. The small wooden box with the key was in my purse. Box 447. The key fit perfectly. Inside a single envelope. Stock certificates. And a letter from Dennis. Carol. I bought this stock as a favor to a patient in '94. His son was starting a tech company and needed investors. I gave him $5,000, never expecting anything. The patient died the next year, and I honestly forgot about these certificates. Found them last month while organizing files. Looked up the company and nearly fell over. This is worth more than we ever saved. This is for you. For our future, for security. If you're reading this from the safe deposit box, something happened to me. Sell these when you're ready. Live well, travel. Stay independent. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. You're taken care of. Dennis. I took the certificates to the bank manager. Her eyes widened as she researched. Mrs. Bennett TechCore Solutions went public last year. These shares are currently valued at approximately $342,000. I sat down, stunned. $342,000. Dennis had left me financial security I never knew existed. I had resources now. Power. Options. I could fight Vanessa on equal footing. The next morning I met Peter Coleman at a coffee shop. 55, graying, methodical. A former detective. Dennis was my friend. When I heard about his death, I wondered if Vanessa would make her move. He kept investigating just as Dennis had promised. He showed me printouts. Vanessa active on caregiver forums under a fake name. Asking how to convince resistant elderly people they need help. Questions about memory care costs. Property browsing history for Costa Rica. Financial investigations. 3 credit cards in Brian's name. $32,000 in total debt. Charges for designer clothes, expensive restaurants, a luxury hotel in Paris. Brian's salary as an office manager is $65,000 a year, Peter said. Not enough to support this lifestyle. She's living on borrowed money. Money he doesn't even know he owes yet. Peter laid out a projected timeline, based on previous victims. Phase 1, Paris trip, build the dream. Make Brian feel inadequate. Phase 2. Next 2 or 3 months, she'll start raising concerns about me, suggesting I'm declining. Phase 3, 4 to 6 months, build the case for assisted living. Phase 4, 6 to 8 months, convince Brian to sell my house. My house is paid off. Worth $320,000. Exactly. Her total take would be over $350,000. Peter closed the folder. She's in setup phase now. When they get back from Paris, she'll start the campaign in earnest. Can the police stop her? Not yet. She hasn't committed a crime in this state. The previous scams were in Arizona and Florida. Until she actually takes money or commits fraud here, the police can't act. We build the case now. Document everything. When she makes her move, we're ready. Peter leaned forward. And Brian has to see the truth himself. If you just tell him, she'll convince him you're paranoid. He has to discover it. I understood. Brian wouldn't believe me without proof he found himself. That evening I sat at my kitchen table making a list. 2 months ago, Brian asking where I kept the house deed. 6 weeks ago, Vanessa taking photos of every room. 1 month ago, Brian asking if I'd forgotten about lunch plans we never made. 3 weeks ago, Vanessa commenting how tired I seemed. 2 weeks ago, a brochure for Sunset Hills Senior Living falling from Vanessa's purse. The pattern was there, building for months. Vanessa was creating a narrative that I was declining, preparing Brian to believe his mother needed help. Dennis had thought of everything. The bank was fireproof, secure, the safest place for money. But the car was Dennis's private space. Vanessa never went in the garage, never showed interest in his tools or his work. The car was where Dennis could hide something he didn't want her to find. He protected me in every way possible. Left me money. Left me evidence. Left me people who would help. Now I had to protect Brian. They came back from Paris on a Tuesday, both tanned. Brian looked tired despite the vacation, new stress lines around his eyes. I'd invited them for dinner, playing the part perfectly. Pot roast, Dennis's favorite and Brian's childhood favorite. Vanessa in clothes I'd never seen before, silk blouse, designer jeans. She controlled the conversation from the first minute. Paris was beautiful, the hotel stunning. She painted a picture of the life they deserved, the life they should have. It was wonderful, Vanessa said, looking at me. But it made me realize how much we're missing out on. Brian works so hard, and we have so little to show for it. The meaning was clear. Brian jumped in. Mom, you should think about traveling too, seeing things. Maybe someday, I said, passing the potatoes. Vanessa leaned forward. Carol, this house is really too big for one person. Have you thought about downsizing? Maybe something more manageable. There it was. The first direct move. I'm managing fine. This is my home. Of course. Her smile was pleasant, reasonable. We just care about your safety. The stairs, the yard work. It's a lot for someone your age. Brian nodded along. We worry about you here alone, Mom. We not I. Vanessa's words coming out of his mouth. I appreciate the concern, but I'm fine. Vanessa let it drop, but I saw the calculation in her eyes. Seeds planted. She'd push harder next time. After dinner, Vanessa excused herself for the bathroom. 10 minutes later I followed, finding her upstairs near Dennis's old office. The bathroom door was open and empty behind her. She jumped when she saw me. Oh, I got turned around. This house has so many rooms. The bathroom is downstairs where it's always been. She laughed, touching my arm. Of course, silly me. Too much wine with dinner. I let her back downstairs, said nothing more. They left an hour later. Vanessa all smiles. Take care of yourself, Carol. We'll visit again soon. Brian hugged me, held on a second longer than usual. I watched them drive away, then went straight to my notebook, wrote down every detail. Wednesday morning I called Brian. I need to talk to you about something. Can you come by? Just you. What's it about? Your father. Something I found in his things. Vanessa and I don't keep secrets, Mom. This is between you and me. Please, Brian. A long pause. Okay. I have to tell Vanessa where I'm going. That's fine. He arrived at 3 alone as promised. Nervous. I had coffee ready. Dennis's investigation file was on the kitchen table. Brian saw it and his shoulders tensed. Mom, if this is about the car again. Sit down, please. He sat, arms crossed, defensive. I took a breath, used my ICU nurse voice, calm, authoritative. Before I show you anything, I need you to listen. Really listen. Can you do that? This feels like an ambush. It's protection. I showed him Dennis's letter first, put it in his hands. Brian read it, color draining from his face. Dad was investigating Vanessa for 18 months before he died. His reaction was instantaneous. Anger, denial. Dad never liked her. He was paranoid about everything. This is ridiculous. I stayed calm. Look at the evidence. I spread the photos on the table. Vanessa at 2 different weddings with 2 different men. The marriage certificates. Vanessa Cortland married Stanley Wright. Vanessa Cortland married George Murphy. Brian stared. This could be anyone. Someone with the same name. Call them. Ask them about their wives. I handed him the paper with phone numbers in Dennis's careful handwriting. Stanley Wright, Phoenix. George Murphy, Tampa. You want me to call random strangers? They're not random. They were married to your wife before you. Brian stood, started pacing. This is insane. Vanessa wouldn't. She loves me. Then prove me wrong. Call them. Prove your father wrong. He grabbed the paper, crumpled it in his fist. I'm not doing this. He headed for the door. Brian, please. He turned. Why are you doing this? Can't you just let me be happy? My voice broke. Because your father died trying to protect you. And I'm not going to let his last months be for nothing. Brian slammed the door behind him. I watched him drive away, not knowing if he'd call those numbers or go straight to Vanessa. Either way, the choice was his now. The waiting was the worst part. I couldn't eat, couldn't focus. Peter called to check in. How did it go? He was angry. I don't know what he'll do. Give him time. The truth has to sink in. But time felt like it was running out. At midnight the phone rang. Brian's name on the screen. Brian. His voice was wrecked, raw. I called them. Mom, I called them both. He was crying. What did they say? Everything. Stanley's mother. George's father's shop. It's the same. Exactly the same story. My heart broke for him. I'm so sorry. I went home after I left your house. I was so angry, his voice shook. But I kept thinking about Dad, about those marriage certificates. So I decided to test her. Just ask simple questions. What happened? I asked where she grew up, what her maiden name was. Tell me about her family. He took a shaky breath. Her answers were different. Not just a little different, completely different from things she told me before. Different town, different college, different everything. What did you do? I pushed. Asked about the credit cards Peter found. The ones in my name I didn't know about. Brian's voice went flat. Her whole face changed, Mom. Like a mask came off. She said they were business investments. That I wouldn't understand. So I asked what business, asked her to show me. She said she didn't have to prove anything to me, that I should trust my wife. I kept pushing. Said I wanted to see the statements. They're in my name. His voice broke. She packed a bag right then. No more pretending. Said I was weak. Said I was just like what Dad said. Just like all of them. He choked back a sob. She walked out. Just got in her car and left. I've been calling her phone. She won't answer. Stay there. I'm calling Peter Coleman. I hung up and dialed Peter immediately. He answered on the first ring. I'm already tracking her through the credit cards. She checked into the airport Marriott an hour ago. She's leaving. Made multiple cash withdrawals over the last 2 hours, about $12,000 total. And she just booked a flight. He paused. Mexico City. 6 a.m. departure. One way. My stomach dropped. She's running. Yes, but I found something else. Vanessa Cortland is a stolen identity. The real Vanessa Cortland died in a car accident in 2018. This woman's real name is Linda Marsh. She's wanted for fraud in 2 other states under different names. Can the police stop her? I've been in contact with detectives in Arizona and Florida. They'll issue a warrant. If we move now, we can get her at the airport before she boards. What do you need? Brian's cooperation. His statement about the credit card fraud. Can he do that? Yes, I said, my voice firm. I'll make sure of it. At 3 a.m. we met at my house. Peter, Brian, and me. Brian looked destroyed, red eyes, no sleep. He sat at the kitchen table while Peter laid out the situation. Vanessa is leaving on a 6 a.m. flight. Police are ready to arrest her on outstanding warrants, but we need your statement about the forged credit cards. This means it gets public, Peter said. You'll have to testify. Are you ready for that? Brian looked at me. What would Dad do? Your father spent his last months building a case against her. He died before he could finish it. He'd want you to stop her. Not for revenge, but so she doesn't do this to someone else. Brian was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. Call the police. Let's go to the airport. We got in Peter's car, drove through empty streets. For in the morning, the city dark except for streetlights. Brian sat in the back, staring at nothing. I reached back, took his hand. He held on tight. The airport was just waking up when we arrived. Coffee shops opening, fluorescent lights harsh. We stood behind a column near security. Peter positioned us where we could see but stay back. Police were already there, 2 detectives in plainclothes near the checkpoint. Brian hadn't spoken since we got in the car, just stared ahead. I stayed close to him. 5:30. The security line started filling. Then Vanessa appeared. 2 large suitcases, designer coat, sunglasses. Despite the early hour. Hair perfect. She looked like someone going on vacation. Calm, confident, phone in one hand, boarding pass in the other. She got in the security line. The detectives moved. Ma'am, we need to speak with you. Vanessa turned, saw them for just a second. Her face changed. Then she smiled. Is there a problem, officers? The detective showed his badge. We have a warrant for your arrest, Linda Marsh. Vanessa's smile froze. I don't know who that is. My name is Vanessa Bennett. Ma'am, please step aside. Vanessa looked around, calculating, saw the other detective blocking the exit. She ran. Dropped her luggage, kicked off her heels, ran in stockings across the polished floor. Airport security caught her before she made it 20 feet, tackling her at the departure board. She fought, kicking, screaming. Get off me. I haven't done anything. People stopped, watched, phones out. Police handcuffed her. Read her rights while she thrashed. A detective opened her abandoned luggage. Inside the first suitcase were clothes, toiletries. Inside the second, stacks of cash, rubber-banded $48,000, the detective would tell us later. A passport with her photo but a different name. Linda Brennan. Documents, bank account numbers, and external hard drive. The detective held up the passport. Want to explain this? Vanessa spat at him. They lifted her to her feet. She was still fighting when she saw us. Saw Brian standing 30 feet away. Me beside him. She went completely still. Then her face transformed. Pure rage. You. She lunged toward him. Police held her back. You did this. You're pathetic. Weak. Stupid. Just like the others. You really thought someone like me would want you? You're nothing. Nothing. I stepped in front of Brian, not much, just enough. Vanessa turned on me. And you interfering old woman. This was mine. My score. 3 years I spent on this. You should have minded your own business and died already. Her voice echoed through the terminal. People staring, recording. I didn't react, just stood there, my hand on Brian's arm. Police dragged Vanessa away, still screaming threats. Her voice fading as they took her through the security doors. Then she was gone. Brian stood frozen, shaking. Let's go home, I said. 2 weeks later, we were at the police station giving formal statements. Detective Ramirez explained what they'd found. Linda Marsh. Born in Ohio. Started running cons at 20, graduating to identity theft and elder fraud. Vanessa Cortland was a stolen identity. 5 previous victims found so far. Charges filed in 3 states. Identity theft, fraud, theft by deception, forgery. The prosecutor expected a plea deal. 12 to 15 years federal prison. Stanley Wright and George Murphy's cases were reopened. Brian's credit card debt was mostly forgiven. Fraud claims approved. A month later, Brian showed up at my door with 2 suitcases. Can I stay here? Just for a while. Of course. He took his old room, the same one from high school. Posters still on the walls. Football trophies on the shelf. The divorce was granted, an annulment actually. The marriage was never legally valid. Vanessa having married under a stolen identity. Brian started therapy twice a week. Some days he was okay, made breakfast, helped around the house, even smiled. Some days he barely spoke, stayed in his room, came out only for meals. I didn't push, just kept the space safe. Made his favorite foods. Left lights on. Kept coffee ready. Years as a nurse taught me about healing. It's not linear. It's messy. Takes time. 2 months after the airport, the prosecutor called. Vanessa took the plea deal. 12 years federal prison. I told Brian over dinner. He just nodded, didn't say anything. That Saturday, I found him in the garage. He was sitting on Dennis's old work stool, holding the work journal, tears streaming down his face. I stood in the doorway waiting. I found this on the workbench. His voice was thick. Started reading. He opened to a page from years ago. Dennis's handwriting. Taught Brian to change the oil today. He's 12, old enough to learn. His hands are still small but careful. He listened to every word. So proud of him. Brian's hand shook, holding the page. Another entry. Brian came by to help with the engine rebuild. We worked all afternoon. Barely talked. Didn't need to. These are the days I'll remember. I barely remember this, Brian said, his voice raw. Working on the car with him. I was so young. He broke down completely. I sold his car. The car he spent 20 years on. For $15,000. For a trip to impress a woman who was planning to destroy our family. You didn't know. I should have known. Dad tried to warn me. Those last few months he kept asking about Vanessa, about our plans, about money. I thought he was being controlling. The last conversation I had with him, we argued about her. I told him to back off, to let me live my life. He died a week later. I never apologized. My throat was tight. He knew you loved him. Brian shook his head. How could he? I chose her over him, over you, over everything he taught me. I pulled out the letter Dennis had left in the car. The one about needing proof before telling Brian. I'd been carrying it with me, waiting for the right moment. Read this. Brian took it. Read Dennis's words about not wanting to break his heart without ironclad proof. About loving him. About Brian being a victim too. He understood. He knew Vanessa was good at what she did. He didn't blame you. Brian broke down completely, deep sobs that shook his whole body. I held him. All those years of being a mother. Holding my son through every pain. This one cut the deepest. We sat in the garage for a long time, surrounded by Dennis's tools, his workbench, his radio. The comforting smell of motor oil and old leather. Eventually, Brian's tears stopped. He wiped his face with his sleeve. I wish the car was still here. I'd learn everything about it the way Dad wanted me to. I didn't say anything, just squeezed his shoulder. He closed the journal carefully, put it back on the workbench exactly where Dennis had left it. We walked back to the house. Evening coming on, spring turning to summer. The air warm and thick. Inside I made dinner. Brian set the table without being asked. The house felt different. Not empty anymore. Not quite whole but healing. I paid off Brian's remaining debt the week after Vanessa was sentenced. $5,000 what the fraud claims didn't cover. Wrote the check and didn't mention it again. The stock certificates from Dennis gave me choices I never expected. $342,000. More money than we'd saved in our entire marriage. I thought about what to do with it. Stanley Wright, his mother dying heartbroken. George Murphy, his father's shop gone. I sent them each a check for $10,000. Attached a note. For your mother's memory. From someone who understands. Similar words for George. For myself, I decided to stay in the house. Maybe travel a little, small trips. Stay independent like Dennis wanted. 2 months after the airport on a Saturday morning I heard it. An engine rumble outside. Deep. Powerful. Familiar. I looked out the kitchen window. The Shelby. In my driveway. Burgundy paint gleaming in the sun. Tom Graves behind the wheel. My chest went tight. Brian was upstairs. I heard his door open, his footsteps. He'd heard it too. We both walked outside, stood on the front porch. Tom got out of the car, a wide smile on his face. Bringing her home where she belongs. Brian.